Mia Harris, at 32, was a master of quiet endurance. Her life was measured in coffee refills and the dwindling hours she had with her mother, Ellen. The Golden Fork Diner was her universe, a tired but tenacious little box on a block in Willow Creek that had recently been acquired by a faceless hospitality conglomerate. The diner, like Mia's dreams of finishing her business degree, was living on borrowed time. For years, the owner, Carl, had let the place decay while skimming the profits. Now, with months of back rent due to the new owners, an eviction notice was pending, and the diner was slated for demolition. For Mia, its end meant more than losing a job. It meant losing the threadbare safety net that paid for Ellen's oxygen tanks and mounting medical bills. Her crew was her family. Pete, the cook, a gentle giant with forearms like hams, constantly battled with second-rate suppliers to make decent food. Carla, a waitress who'd been there for 30 years, was a monument of cynical wisdom, her skepticism a shield against a lifetime of disappointments. Then there was Jenny, whose voice held all the promise of Nashville, but whose reality was tethered to a younger brother needing care. They were all just trying to hang on. On a Tuesday night, the air thick with impending rain, the bell above the door jangled violently. Oliver Hayes crashed into their world, a whirlwind of expensive wool and cheap whiskey. As the CEO of Hayes Hospitality, the same company that now held the diner's fate in its hands, he was the embodiment of immense power. But tonight, he was just a man unraveling. He slumped into a booth, his handsome face a mask of fury and entitlement. "Coffee, black," he slurred, waving a dismissive hand, his gaze fixed on the middle distance as he muttered about betrayal and broken deals. Mia's jaw tightened. She knew the type. Men who believed their wealth absolved them of decency. This was the clash of their worlds. She poured the coffee and placed it on the table with a firm, deliberate click. She spent the rest of her shift pointedly ignoring him, her focus on the rhythm of her work. When closing time came, he was the last one left. He fumbled for his wallet, hundreds spilling onto the sticky table. Mia looked at the cash, enough to cover a month of Ellen's medicine, and felt a familiar pang of injustice. "The cab's on its way," she said, her voice flat, already dialing the local service. She wasn't his keeper, but her conscience wouldn't let a man, even this one, get behind the wheel in his state. She helped the unprotesting CEO to the curb. As he collapsed into the back seat, he mumbled something incoherent, his eyes briefly focusing on her. For a second, his arrogance fell away, replaced by a profound, startling loneliness. Then the cab pulled away, leaving Mia alone under the flickering neon sign. A week later, Oliver Hayes returned. Sober, sharp, and clad in a perfectly tailored suit, he was the picture of the ruthless CEO she'd read about in business journals. His presence commanded the room, the lunchtime chatter fading as he approached her station. "Mia Harris," he stated, his tone leaving no room for argument. She led him to a booth, her posture radiating defensiveness. She expected a lecture, a threat, the final notice. Instead, he said, "I'm here to apologize." He looked uncomfortable, the words feeling foreign in his mouth. He then laid out the situation with cold clarity. Carl was being evicted, and the diner was scheduled for demolition. Mia's stomach clenched. "But," he said, pausing, "I'm prepared to offer you a proposition." He explained that seeing the diner, in its worn-out state, had reminded him of something. "Before I made my money, my mother worked in a place just like this. It was the only place I felt safe after my father left. It's long gone now, paved over for a parking garage." This sliver of vulnerability was the first chink in his armor. "My analysts tell me this place is a financial black hole," he continued, his voice shifting back to the familiar cadence of a CEO. "They say the community won't support it, that nostalgia doesn't pay the bills. I want to see if they're right. Here was the challenge, the unique job offer that would bind them together. I'll halt the eviction and the demolition. I will personally provide the capital to cover the debts and fund renovations. You have 6 months to make this diner profitable. If you succeed, I'll sell you the building for $1. If you fail, the bulldozers move in." Mia stared at him, her mind reeling. It was an insane gamble, a rich man's whim. Carla's cynical voice echoed in her head, warning her that offers like this always came with strings. But then she thought of Ellen, of Pete and Jenny, of the independence she craved. It was a lifeline. "I want full operational autonomy," she countered, her voice surprisingly steady. "No corporate oversight. My decisions, my menu, my staff." A flicker of respect crossed Oliver's face. "Done," he said. "But I'll be watching. Don't make me regret this." The first month was a brutal lesson in reality. The Golden Fork wasn't just failing. It was actively being bled dry by predatory suppliers Carl had used for years. The produce was third-rate, the meat overpriced. The bureaucracy of transferring permits and licenses was a nightmare of red tape. The community, wary of the Hayes Hospitality name, was skeptical. This was the real conflict. Not corporate sabotage, but the slow, grinding challenge of turning a ship around in a storm. Oliver, true to his word, stayed at a distance, his expensive car often parked across the street. His solution to the supply problem was quintessentially him. Find me the biggest restaurant supplier in the state. We'll strong-arm them on price. He made a call, and within a day, a corporate giant offered them a bulk deal. That the food was sterile, uniform, and soulless. The locals who trickled in could taste the difference. Sales flatlined. Oliver's way had failed. This was Mia's moment, the revelation of her hidden genius, which wasn't about corporate intrigue, but about a deep, authentic understanding of people. Armed with a binder from her half-finished business degree, she spent a week driving through the county, talking to farmers, bakers, and butchers. She came back not with a corporate contract, but with a network of local partners. She convinced a nearby farm to provide fresh produce in exchange for a farmer's breakfast special named after them. She made a deal with a family bakery for daily bread. She presented her plan to Oliver in the empty diner, her handwritten notes and cost-benefit analyses spread across a table. "Your way is efficient," she told him, her voice ringing with newfound confidence. "But it has no soul. People don't come here for generic eggs. They come for Pete's cooking, for a place that feels like home. My plan makes us part of Willow Creek." He studied her notes, his expression unreadable. For the first time, he saw that her non-monetary worth, her integrity, her connection to her community, her sheer grit, was a more valuable asset than any his money could buy. He looked up from her meticulous plans, and for the first time, he truly saw her. "Show me," he said, his voice quiet. He had been humbled. The next 5 months were a gradual, painstaking transformation for both the diner and the man who had almost destroyed it. Oliver's change wasn't a sudden epiphany, but a slow erosion of his corporate armor, shown through a series of small, meaningful actions. He started by observing, then by asking questions. He learned the names of the staff and saw Carla's skepticism slowly thaw. He listened, truly listened, as Jenny sang her heart out on a makeshift stage on a Friday night, and he saw the profound effect her music had on the tired faces in the crowd. One frantic Saturday, when the dishwasher broke down, Oliver, without being asked, rolled up the sleeves of his expensive shirt and spent 3 hours washing dishes alongside Pete. That single act earned him more respect from the staff than his millions ever could. This was his redemption arc in motion. He began to open up to Mia during their late-night debriefs over coffee. He talked about the crushing loneliness of his success, the constant pressure to be invulnerable, and the fear of ending up like his own absent father. He admitted that her kindness to him on his worst night had been a startling reminder of a decency he thought no longer existed. He was admitting, "I was wrong about you." As they worked together, the class dynamics that separated them became a bridge instead of a barrier. The initial friction between them evolved into a deep, magnetic respect, which slowly, cautiously, blossomed into love. On the last day of the 6th month, the Golden Fork was unrecognizable. The walls were adorned with local art. The menu was a celebration of Willow Creek's producers, and the room buzzed with the energy of a place that had become the town's true heart. It was profitable, but more importantly, It was essential. Oliver arrived not with a team of lawyers, but alone. He sat with Mia in the corner booth where they'd first met. He slid a folder across the table. Inside was the signed deed. "You did it, Mia," he said, his voice thick with an emotion she now recognized as genuine admiration. But he knew giving her the diner wasn't enough. The ultimate emotional payoff had to be on her terms. "I'm dissolving the hotel project," he said, "and I spoke to my board. We're setting up a new division within Hayes Hospitality, a small business incubation fund. It will provide capital for ventures like this one, ventures that invest in communities. But it needs someone to run it, someone who knows what they're doing." His offer wasn't about absorbing her into his world. It was about him finally understanding the value of hers. "Is that a job offer, Hayes?" Mia asked, a playful smile touching her lips. "It's a partnership offer," he corrected her, his hand covering hers on the table. "In every sense of the word." Mia looked around at the life she had built. She saw Ellen sitting in a sunny booth by the window. She saw Pete in the kitchen, proudly plating a dish made with ingredients from a farm just down the road. She saw her own reflection in the window, no longer just a waitress scraping by, but a leader, a builder, a woman who had rewritten her own story. She had started with a simple act of kindness to a broken stranger. In return, he had given her a chance, and she had shown him a better way to live. The Golden Fork was more than a legacy of brick and mortar. It was a testament to second chances and to the extraordinary power of a resilient heart.